Welcome into another bonus episode of Hockey Inside Out. We talk about Bruce Boudreau. He got let go by the Vancouver Canucks last weekend. On our last episode, Stu Count mentioned the idea of perhaps Bruce Boudreau could be a guy to watch out for, maybe come to Montreal to work under Martin St. Louis for the power play. Now, I looked up the stats when he was coaching the Capitals, the Ducks, and Minnesota Wild. 5 times his power play finished top 10. In fact, they finished number 1 twice, number 2 once, number 3 once. So, gentlemen, I ask you this question. Should the Montreal Canadiens consider Bruce Boudreau in that capacity to help improve the power play and be sort of a coaching leader for Martin St. Louis as he continues to grow in this role?
Well, I think first off, I think we'd have to understand whether or not he's interested in coming in as an assistant coach. I know he publicly said he'd like to stay in the game, but staying in the game as an assistant is a big adjustment. And then you look at the group they have in Montreal, and Martin St. Louis has the final decision on who he works with. And, they have a group in place, and for them to bring in somebody at this particular time of the year, I don't know really if it's worth it. Maybe they should, if they want to make changes, there's going to be some discussions, I'm sure, in the off season as far as, what kind of job each and every one of his assistants have done. And then, if it means to look at some other changes, bring in somebody else, then maybe something like that would be interesting in the off season. But first and foremost, does he really want to step in an assistant coaching position? And at his age and his experience, big question mark.
Yeah, I think Rick's right. For this year, it doesn't make much sense. You don't really want them to come in and bring Bruce Boudreau in, and all of a sudden the Canadiens have a 40% power play and ruin their chances at getting Connor Bedard. But if he's interested in like a consulting role, I think that would be a really big difference maker for the Montreal Canadiens. Just in terms of what he brings, I think he would mesh with the personality that they're trying to build in that locker room as well. You look at the way that the Vancouver Canucks reportedly reacted to him being fired there, and the tears that were shed, and the lineup of players outside the coach's office to say goodbye. Like, this is a guy whose players absolutely love him, and he does tend to push teams in the right direction. I know he hasn't had much playoff success, but if Bruce Boudreau is interested in doing anything aside from being a head coach, I think it would be a great fit. But I would be kind of shocked if he's interested in that to not go to Toronto, if Toronto's interested, because that seems to be where his heart always has been. And I would assume at this point in his career, like right now, he probably, unless it's a head coaching position, I'm assuming based on the emotional weight of what just happened, he doesn't want to be jumping at another job. He wants some time to relax. But I think it would be a great fit for the Montreal Canadiens. I just don't know if Bruce Boudreau would want to do that.
Yeah. I mean, Bruce Boudreau can relax very comfortably because he's making $2.5 million this season. The Canucks are now paying 3 coaches more than $2.5 million this season, which says a lot about their management team. But for Boudreau, when I mentioned him, it's like somebody else has to run the Canadiens power play, take over. They're not going to make a change this season. If there's any coaching changes made, or whether it's somebody being fired or even just adding another coach, there's no salary cap on coaches. I think they need to bring in somebody with more NHL head coaching experience to help Marty St. Louis behind the bench. I go back to a recent game, they had too many man penalties in the same period. It's like there's just stuff's happening really fast on the bench. I think they need somebody who's been behind the bench a lot, has NHL head coaching experience. But you also want somebody who's not going to be breathing down Marty St. Louis' job with him thinking this is a guy who's going to try and take over for me. And with Bruce Boudreau, as you said, Andrew, everybody loves this guy. At his age, I'm not sure how many more head coaching opportunities he's going to get. It's very similar to Claude Julien. You get to that part where certain age where maybe the phone doesn't ring as much as you wish, but he made it so clear how he wants to stay in the game. He wants to be part of the game. He's a hockey lifer. He loves it. And I just think somebody like a Bruce Boudreau would be a perfect fit. Having said that, when I put out on Twitter about that, I had responses from some members of the French media who sent me a story when Jose Theodore played for Boudreau in Minnesota. He said that Boudreau referred to the French players as effing frogs. Now, if that's a case, then that's something that the French media is going to be all over if indeed the Canadiens went to hire a guy like Bruce Boudreau. whether the Canadiens want to go through that path, whether that's true. I mean, that's what Jose Theodore was saying. But I think if it's not Bruce Boudreau, I think the Canadiens, Kent Hughes needs to find somebody to just add a little bit more experience behind the bench. They're really inexperienced behind the bench with the guys they have now. Stefan Robida was brought in to replace Luke Richardson. I think they really miss Luke Richardson. I'm not knocking Robida because he was brought in here as a development coach, and he's done a really good job with the rookie defensemen who have been a real pleasant surprise this season. So he's really good at that part of the job. But I think they need more NHL experience behind the bench, and they need somebody who can fix the power play. I mean, it's become just dreadful to watch. So Bruce Boudreau, I think, would be a guy, that type of guy. And as you mentioned, really liked by the players, really respected, really loves hockey. He might even appreciate to be sort of out of the limelight a bit, not having to do news conferences all the time, just show up and coach, stuff like that. Sort of like Rick, your buddy Larry Robinson, when he wanted to be assistant coach with the Canadiens, he wasn't interested in being head coach. He didn't want to have to. He said, "I don't want to have to deal with you guys." He just wanted to come and coach. So whether it's Bruce Boudreau or somebody else, I think the Canadiens need to add a little bit more experience behind the bench moving forward.
Well, we'll find out with Bruce Boudreau what his next move would be. But again, think about it right now, guys. His power play units when he coached in Washington, when he coached in Anaheim, Minnesota were lethal. We saw it with the Capitals. However, remember what happened in 2010 when they lost to the Montreal Canadiens were nullified. But perhaps that could be a route the Habs might look at down the road to perhaps bring in, whether it's a Bruce Boudreau type of guy or a veteran guy to help mentor Martin St. Louis as he moves along as the head coach of the Montreal Canadiens. Well, that'll do for this bonus episode of Hockey Inside Out. Don't forget to send us your questions or comments, and we look forward to conversing about that on a future episode. And also check out the YouTube page for all the latest episodes of Hockey Inside Out, and go into the newsletter and sign up for that at MontrealGazette.com/newsletter. And for bonus content and full episodes, check out Hockey Inside Out. On behalf of Rick, Andrew, and Stu, wish you a great week. We'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.
Yeah!